Uh, the other comment I've got, and this sort of in a way relates to Cornette. One of his great targets at the minute is Tony Khan. And it's weird because I heard somebody make a great quote the other day about Tony Khan. They said that if you're ever online making fun of a billionaire, you've lost. Because it is true, like he may be a geek, but he's a geek that watches his nerdy stuff in multiple mansions around the world. I hope. But the thing that makes me laugh is that the guy Tony Khan, he's hyper sensitive to any form of criticism at all. The famous story that keeps coming up is that there was a girl on YouTube called Girl on Cinema, and she had a pretty small YouTube channel, and she watched. This was during the pandemic, and she would watch NXT and AEW and review and compare them. And she was talking about how she wasn't enjoying the AEW shows, and her views were getting stuff like 400 views, 200 views. Like she did not have a huge audience. And Tony Khan got in her, publicly tweeted her and started arguing with this teenage girl because she didn't like fucking orange juice versus red cake or whatever the fuck the names are. And you just think like you're a grown man. You're a billionaire. You should be in fucking Jamaica with 10 porn stars instead of trying to book a fucking Chris Jericho promo battle. Like, what are you doing? And so basically what I'm saying is, for somebody that works in the industry, what is your opinion for the fact that there's a boss of this company who seemingly is not really, I don't know if it's not leadership skills, but the fact that he's so adverse to criticism, which in turn brings on even more criticism?
Number one, I feel like that girl got lucky that she got into a feud, because I'm sure her numbers went up because he helped her out on social media. So I'm pretty sure that her numbers are better because of Tony Khan. So that's a plus in my book that he did that. We discussed this on our show again. And here's the thing. Everybody gets into the business because they're a fan. They're a fan of the sport. They're a fan of wrestling. Tony Khan has been a fan since he's been a little boy, just like the workers. You interview 99% of the workers, they will tell you, I knew from age 2 I wanted to be a wrestler, right? Tony Khan's dad, I think his graduation present or one of his presents was for him to come to the ECW arena and watch a show. And he was like 14 or 15 years old. I can't remember. It was a long time ago. He was a little kid, right? He came to watch ECW wrestling, loves the business, loves the sport. Fortunately enough, they have millions and billions of dollars. So he has the opportunity to get a company going, to give people an opportunity for a different place to work besides WWE, somewhere that has access to television, to bigger buildings, to travel when needed. Is it his fault that he's not that knowledgeable because he was a fan first? Everybody's a fan first. In my opinion, you learn as you go. My thing is, I feel like, and I don't know what kind of support team he has there in AEW, but I feel like he should have more of a team helping him make the bigger decisions. There should be somebody controlling that locker room. When you have a huge pay-per-view in Wembley that drew 91,000 people, but all people are talking about is Punk and Jack Perry and their backstage altercation, there's a problem there, because drawing 91,000 people, even though it's not in the US, and it was a one-time deal, everybody's, writing them off. Well, it doesn't count. It's like, no, it does count. That's a big deal. That's a huge house, and that's amazing for a lot of those guys to work in front of. It might be the biggest crowd they ever work in front of, right? I feel like, going on 5 years, he's learned a lot, but he's also made some mistakes, and you can't carry the load by yourself. You have to have a team and somebody to help you. And I just feel like with all these mistakes that are being made, people should be brought in. I know there are coaches there. I'm friends with a couple of them. That's how I get my AEW info. But I feel like he wants to be one of the boys more so than a boss. And he wants to be looked at as the fun boss and the guy that we can all go to. But from what I understand, he's kind of a pushover. He lets the boys decide what the destiny is for this, that, and the other thing sometimes. You know what I mean? You need to know when you need to be stern and be a boss or when you need to be one of the boys. And in his case, he needs to be a boss probably 99% out of the, 100% of the time. Yeah. And it's not happening.
Well, one of the things with Tony Khan, and this was bizarre to me, was that a while back when you could still DM people on YouTube, there was a gamer channel called, well, I'll not give away my source, but he was a big gamer guy on YouTube, and he DM'd the show because he thought I was Conan. So I got him to send me dick pics and stuff. It was very nice. I'll forward them to you soon, Chad, once I'm done with them.
Do. Absolutely.
And he told me that from his sources about the state of that AEW game was that he said that, of course, this is allegedly because fucking snowflake YouTube. I hate snowflakes even at Christmas time. There you go. And he said that he heard that Tony Khan invested 80 million in building an engine just for this game. And what that means is, if you don't know nerdy terms, that'd be like us developing our own software just to record this instead of using Zoom or StreamYard or whatever the fuck. So that's an 80 million investment on the game. He was then going to self-finance the game's production, which put the budget up to something like 115 million. Which it's just like, that's demented, because if you hear about the WWE games, it costs them $15 million to make them, and which is like, and they make that profit back within a month. With the AEW game, I've heard they needed to sell 1.3 million to make the budget back, and they've barely generated 600,000 sales. Like, it's a total money pit, and this was all because people were saying to Tony, you should do this, you should do that, instead of him going, I might need to actually speak to someone that knows what they're doing here.
Well, I understand that, but it's also like what they're doing now with the buildings. They're renting out these huge, massive buildings, and they're only filling a third of them, right? And there's a way that you can cover it up to make it look good for TV and tighter shots. And why not save your money and go into a smaller building? Like, we've talked about this so many times. They would save so much money per week. Like, if I'm running a company and I see that we're not getting 15,000, we're averaging about 5,000 people, I'm going to say, well, we have to go look for a smaller building, and you can save thousands and thousands of dollars per week. Obviously, he doesn't care about losing money for whatever reason. Maybe he thought that doing that video game thing that way would differentiate him from WWE. Well, look, we have it this way and nobody's done it this way and we're the first and blah, blah, blah. Maybe that's a badge of honor for him and he doesn't care about the net loss, which it's crazy because he should. I mean, anybody with half a brain would care about the money, but how much money does this guy have? How much money does his family have that you can just throw away millions of dollars and it doesn't matter?
And the thing about it is that a lot of people go, oh, he's a billionaire, it's not going to affect his overhead. It's like, okay, but it's going to affect the brand. That if you have a game that comes out and stinks, hello, Tony Hawk Pro Skater, there's a roast you'll not recover from, you loser. But if it comes out and it stinks, then it gets tarnished. Then if you put out a show that, as you mentioned, they're doing it like a section of an arena instead of a full venue, it's bad for the brand. So he can skate by because it doesn't affect him personally, but the brand is getting affected. But I would wonder, Francine, what would you think? Like, obviously, you probably shouldn't and won't name names, but do you think that the locker room respects him, or do you think that they're just like, just keep that money coming? I don't give a fuck what he says in interviews. Just, I want to buy another Tony Hawk Pro Skater game.
I think a lot of people look at him as a buddy that are in that locker room. A lot of the guys, like I said earlier, I know a lot of them can easily influence Tony. And, you know, if you're a vet in the business, it's okay to go up to the boss and say, hey, I have an idea, right? You know, I want to do this, this, and this. And him say, oh, yeah, that sounds great. You know what I mean? And then if it doesn't work on TV, you have to reevaluate what that guy said and you have to build from it and stuff. The take that I get, and I don't work there, so don't come after me, people. From what I'm hearing from people, he's very easy to just say, but, you know, I really wanted to get this in there. Or, you know, I know you gave me 4 minutes, but I need 8 minutes and blah, blah, blah. Okay. You know, we'll do a picture in picture. We'll do the commercial and then you and blah, blah, blah. And I hear a lot of that. And, I mean, you know, if it works, great. But again, if the product is suffering, like you said, it's not so much Tony himself, it's AEW. So we have to look at the big picture and say, is this working for the brand? And if it isn't, what can we do to change it? And that's why I feel like if, you know, more of the guys who had a little more experience with backstage stuff and creative could jump on board with him and he can put his foot down, I think things could move in a more positive direction. But I just feel like some of the boys might take advantage of him, and I feel like he lets them because he wants to be liked. And he's a fan. That's the thing. He's a fan. He grew up watching half those guys. And he probably looks at them with love in his eyes. Like, I can't believe I'm standing here with Chris Jericho, or I can't, you know what I mean? It's like, there's that little bit of fandom still in him that he's probably popping internally. Like, how the hell did I get here? I'm so lucky to be here, kind of thing. And there's nothing wrong with that, because we're all fans. Because if we weren't fans, we wouldn't be doing what we're doing. So I'm not going to sit here and call him a mark, because I'm a mark. You're a mark. He's a mark. We're all marks. We're marks for the business. But it goes a little farther when you can't understand what your main role is. And I just feel like sometimes things might go over his head. Maybe.
Yeah. And the latest...
Wait, hang on. Can I call him? I'm going to call him a dorky mark, because he booked an E-Fed before he became the booker of AEW. So he's got experience.
You're the coolest guy in the world.
You've
never done anything in your life that somebody can look at you and say, wow, what a dork.
I dare say the Queen of Extreme, Francine, may have been in the E-Fed. Maybe, possibly, maybe.
Well, it's good.
You might have been in his E-Fed.
And he has good taste to put me in his E-Fed.
But that's what's crazy about it, though. You know, like, that's his credentials on his wrestling resume.
People, look at me. I wasn't even a fan of the sport. I didn't get into it till like 1920, and I was like, hey, I'm going to go to wrestling school.
You started watching wrestling in 1920?
Yes, I did.
Oh.
I was 19 years old. It wasn't like I was born and I said, I'm destined to be in the professional wrestling world. No, I never wanted to be in this sport. And I think I talked to you about that before. You know, you work at it and you get good at what you do. And if you're good, you make a name for yourself. And if you suck, you move on. He is a fan who has a ton of money and has a great opportunity. We should not be faulting him for that, because we're all fans before we get into the business.
Correct.
But don't make fun of him because he was a fan with an E-Fed.
I will not. But if they want to rise, if they want to rise the ratings, they put the cameras in the back when he tells Arn Anderson one of his booking ideas from his E-Fed back in the late 90s, and then we see Arn Anderson's face looking at him, and then
you're such a dick. Ooh. Because you've done things in this world that I could look at you and say, why am I friends with you, Ian or Chad? Sorry. Why am I?
Beat that.
I get
she said,
no, it's your name. So for God's sake.
Hank, your real name is Chad?
Yes, it's the N word. Or it's the C-bomb. It's the C-bomb.
Oh, I don't like when people condemn him because he was a fan who bought a company, because we're all fans who got into the business. Oh, you're a loser. See, this is what I deal with every week. We go back. I can't wait till later when we have to record. I'm gonna nail you.
You cannot have a Christmas without Italians fighting around the party table. It's glorious. But have you also heard the latest, Francine, that allegedly Tony Khan has signed or is in talks with not only Bill Goldberg but also Hulk Hogan?
So, well, if he signs Bill Goldberg, does that mean that Ryback gets the last match? Because that's what he told us. He was pitching for AEW to sign Goldberg and him, and then they want, to work a program together. So maybe that's going to happen. Interesting.
I just really hope that he doesn't have Hulk Hogan versus Ric Flair in 2024, because they should actually film that in black and white.
Well, I was going to say they just hired Flair. I can't imagine that they'll hire Hogan to be a singles wrestler now. You don't think so?
Wait, you would think that, but he hired Edge after multiple broken necks, and it's like this. What the fuck's going on?
Just 50. Hogan's 70 years old. Ric Flair is what, 76, 78? What is he? I don't even know. I mean, I think it's smart.
Old enough.
Look, they have the money to hire whoever they want. It's smart to have name value, but they need to know how to use these people. So if they put them in a ridiculous position that they make them work, I think it's going to be a disaster. But I feel like a name like Hogan still generates like, oh my gosh, what is he doing? Let me turn this TV on and see. It's a curiosity factor. I know for me it would be as a fan, because I'm just like, he's 100. What is he doing today? Let me turn on the TV and see. If you think about it.
There's two ways to look at it. One, from a merchandising perspective, they're going to make a shitload of money. So they want to cash in on the Hogan name. They're going to sell a ton of AEW Hulkamania products. So that's one smart way to look at it. Two, the first real crack in the AEW armor was the backlash they got with Flair. Every single signing announcement that they've made, if it was a former WWE guy or an indie person nobody ever heard of, still had some shred of positivity from their audience, except the Ric Flair is all elite graphic. If you read the comments underneath, they got destroyed from everybody universally. The Hulkster, God love him. I know I do. That one, I'm looking at the tweet. I looked it up. Back June 2nd, 2020, he was banned from all AEW events. That one is not going to be met with any kind of favorable response from the AEW faithful.
He was banned. Hulk Hogan?
Tony Khan went on Twitter and banned Hulk Hogan from him and Linda, because there was some crap going on Twitter about both of them, from all AEW events. So the ban must be lifted if they're negotiating.
But do you think now with that graphic you said with Ric Flair, right? Do you think that the last match had anything to do with it? Because there was so much hype for this Ric Flair last match, and we watched the vignettes for it, and then it ended up being the tag match, and it ended up being Flair as this, I hate to say it, but this older, out of shape man who can barely breathe in the ring. Are people just tired of seeing I want to see Ric Flair in an authority role. I don't want to see him working. You know what I mean? Don't put him in a match. I'm sorry. He's past his prime, and I can say that because I'm past my prime too. Don't put me out there either. There's a time and a place for everything, I feel. And I feel like his name has such value in wrestling still, but not as a wrestler. So the same with Hogan. If you want to make him do a leg drop, okay, make him do one move to pop the crowd initially, but put them in an authority figure role, like a GM position or a manager position where they don't have to be physical. Because when you see people working that aren't in their prime, it is the saddest thing. You remember them as those people that you loved to watch. And it's not the 90s anymore. We're not those, young kids that are on the scene and running around. It takes us a little more time to get in the ring. It takes some people more time to walk up the ring steps. And I feel when you hit 70, that might be the time to, hang the boots up and just go into an authority figure role. But I feel that both names, even Goldberg, I feel that those names still have so much value. And I feel like fans would tune in just to see what they're going to do for that company.